Well, good morning, everybody. This is Paul Benbow with Chemwatch. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, SDS Lifecycle Management, powered by Chemwatch, of course. And, Chemwatch, we're here to keep you compliant, help you stay compliant. And this webinar, we're going to talk just about, vendor SDS management, how we do everything for you, taking that burden away from you, allowing you to do other things that are maybe a better use of your time. We just want to talk about what we do for our clients. We're a little different than everybody else. We do a lot more for our clients, and we just want to show you how we do it and what we do. So before I get started with our speakers, little housekeeping. On your GoToMeeting panel, GoToWebinar, you'll actually see this little slide button. You can use this to open and close your panel. And you can either use computer audio, which I think is better, or you can dial in on the phone. There's the phone information. If you have a question of us, please enter it in this box. It'll be logged in the system. So at any time during the presentation, just type in a question. We have our staff kind of monitoring this. And at the end of the presentation, depending on how much time we have, we'll answer questions. So every question is a good question. Please don't hesitate to ask. So joining me today is Tom Hassey. Tom is my fellow business development manager, and he'll be talking a lot about our processes and how we do things internally. I've already introduced myself, and also with me today is Augusta Brindley, or we call her Gusty, and she's our solutions engineer, and she'll be doing the demonstration part of the presentation today. So kind of a quick agenda, basically an overview of our process, how we do things, how we acquire SDSs, register SDSs, how we review the information in the SDSs, how we keep your SDSs updated, the reporting that we feed back on where we are, and basically how Chemwatch can help with all the pieces that you need to do to keep current on your SDS information. So that being said, I'm going to give the presentation to Mr. Tom Hassey. So Tom, let me hand the baton to you.
Thank you, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Thanks again for attending. Well, as Paul mentioned, we take over, quite frankly, the SDS data management stream for our customers. We do this free of charge. It's part of our license, and we do it for the life of the subscription. What we end up doing is it's a pull mechanism, but also it's actually part of the, for those who are out of the quality world, it's part of the Chouart cycle, the cycle of quality. And that is, as we pull in data, we have a specific process as to how we register and acquire the data and do the extraction. And then we have our own people, our own chemists, from a worker safety point of view, do the data review. And then we update our database. And then we then push that data out to our customers in terms of updated regulatory and SDS data for labels, what we call our safety cards. These are one-page reports on firefighting, first aid, PPE requirements. We also have a application programmer interface, or what's called a web service API, that interfaces to other database-driven systems like ERP systems. This data is also driven into our report generator, where you can report on over 200 data points in 93 countries and 47 languages. And all the SDS data is basically anchored, we call it, based on its location. And what we end up doing is we do this as a cycle. We call it ChemWatcher. It's an internal tool that we use to perform all this. And so we call ChemWatcher, but really it's an SDS registration tracking tool. And that is, it monitors or maintains the status of acquisition, updates the extraction status, and what we call temporarily unavailable. And what we're able to do is define, in terms of the activity, typical turnaround times. So our customers can align their business practices or their data migration requirements with our cycle. And again, this is actually part of our internal quality management system, or our QMS system. So I'm going to spend a little bit of time and talk about each of the activities we saw earlier in terms of this SDS data management activity that we do for the life cycle of the SDS. The first step is registration, the initial registration. So what we provide is a import list, so to speak, and what we end up doing is creating the folder structure based on location, language, country of the documentation. And then we have a specific process internally in terms of matching the customer's data against our internal list. And what isn't there, we'll go out and acquire. But then what we'll do is what is there, we'll make sure that everything is updated. In other words, what we're actually doing here is scrubbing the customer's SDS data. So when we register it, we're actually creating their own database with it that the data is scrubbed and up to date. We do this, every activity we provide our clients with a report at each stage of this process. So for instance, for registration, you can see here the number of products requested, those that have been already registered, those that have not been registered, what is duplicate, what is available in our database as well. We also let you know what is temporarily unavailable. And we provide these reports, we'll actually do it weekly, but we ask the customers to define the frequency as to how they want to be notified what's going on. So what we then do is we look at the client's SDS list, match against our internal database. We start with internet, we'll contact the email, phone, fax, we record all responses, record all the activities, and we provide you with the acquisition reports. And so all this extraction data is again subject to our quality check. So we abide by a very strict QMS internal process that's aligned to our ISO 9000 audit. Now it's important that we let you know what's going on in the acquisition activities because there's certain decisions we need our clients to make. So let's look at the report, and you can see what we're talking about here is the number of the SDSs we've received, ones that are not available. Now this could be for a number of reasons. The vendor could be out of business. And what we need to do is talk to you about what do you want to do? Do you need another supplier? So we keep track of all this. And again, what we're really doing is scrubbing the client's data. Extraction. So what we then do is once we've acquired the SDS, we'll extract up to 70 data points from each vendor SDS. And these are extracted to obviously populate the customer's database, but prior to doing that, they are subject to review by our chemists. So the data points, as you can see, all ingredients, obviously the ID data around the SDS, the hazard classifications. It's important to note the reason we pull full ingredient formulation, we actually link the SDS ingredient data to our regulatory database library. We have over 6,100 regulatory lists in it from 89 countries. So we'll link by CAS number that ingredient to the appropriate regulations from those countries. So this is one reason we extract it at the ingredient level. So once the data is extracted, it's automatically integrated into our system and can support all sorts of features like the labeling, queries, hazard filtering, in these one-page safety card or hazard summaries, as we call them. The review process. So we basically come up with, it's like a quality assurance, a QA, we'll call it a board, where it's not just one chemist. We have 3 to 5 will look at these data points. And quite frankly, they need to agree on classification, codes, properties. In other words, it's more or less a sanity check. Does this all make sense? If there's a data point we don't agree with, or we think there may be an issue, we'll do our own independent research to see what's going on. If we still have a discrepancy internally, we will actually contact our customer who's using the SDS directly, inform them of what we've uncovered, and quite frankly, we need a decision to be made. Do they want to go with the vendor data? Do they want to possibly reach out to the vendor and ask why there's an issue? And again, this is typically on very, very important things like DG ratings as an example. So the data is then stored in the customer database after they review it and okay it. And again, this is available for all regulatory reporting. And all the review activities are documented in a report that we email to our customers. And all the review activities, like all the other activities on the data management process, are recorded in our ChemWatcher tool and are available to our clients 24/7 on the web. So this is an example of a data review report. And it just shows the ones requested, the ones we've been able to review and produce. Again, just keeping you in the loop. Again, we can email those reports or they're available 24/7 on the web, our ChemWatcher tool. So we have all the data, it's up to date. Now, how do we update it? Well, we don't wait for updates. We go get them. We do that by web crawling. So what these web crawlers do, and these run 24/7, 365, is they go out and they go to the sites where the SDS was originated. And what they do in web speak is they look for what's called a broken link. Those who are not familiar with such speak, the broken link is basically, from the web crawler point of view, something has changed on the site since the last time since the web crawler went to that site. What that does is it flags internally for one of our acquisition team to go out to that site, look to see what has changed, look for an SDS, a regulation. We also do independent search. outside of the vendors. And again, we're looking for industry data here. We also apply direct contact for any new or updated SDS. We'll ping them on a regular basis to see if there is. But again, we don't wait. We'll actually web crawl their site as well. This is all subject to the same rigorous QA process that we employ on registered data when we're doing the registration process. That is, we have our chemists and toxicologists look at those data points and quite frankly come to a consensus. We do data extraction, and then we make this data available to our customers in a couple different ways. We actually have a compare report, but we also have a report that we send them that includes the old versus new documentation. So what we're doing is we're doing all the work behind the scenes, but we do provide to our customers actual HTML copies of the report. So again, this is what a comparison report would look like. I actually have one available, and this is an actual live version, what we would send a client. I actually have it as a PDF. So we send these PDF, HTML, Word, it just depends what the client wants. So what we do is we send out this document that shows the SDS in their collection, the supplier, the language, but up here, the previous issue date, the new issue date, and then we have this link called a compare report. So these links on previous and new issue date are basically PDF copies of the SDS. Some clients, quite frankly, and again, you can download these, save them on the site. Some of our clients just like to have a physical copy available, but rest assured, all this is being done for you behind the scenes. This would be a copy of the new SDS. And then what we do is we take both copies and we run what we call a digital comparison report. What this shows in red is everything that's changed from the old or previous version to the new version. Again, all this is being done behind the scenes for the client. We're giving them, quite frankly, access to hard copies of what actually is occurring for their own use. So we saw this report here a minute ago. Again, this is all extracted data, again, is subject to quality checks by our people. Now, why is our people important? We don't sell chemicals or products. So we look at SDS data from a worker safety point of view. Regulatory management. We also do the same when it comes to regulatory changes. So we monitor all regulatory changes for what we call ingredients of interest. And those are our clients' ingredients within their SDS. And what we're able to do is produce a report that shows what has changed on a client's ingredient within their SDS collection. So here's an example of, in this case, the changes that have occurred to white spirit based on this CAS number. And this ingredient is within this client's SDS. And what we'll show them, and again, the client chooses the time frame as to when they receive these. This is the semi-annual report, so there's literally dozens and dozens of changes here. So what this shows is from this EU regulation, we highlight in blue what has changed. Again, the work behind the scenes, we're doing this for our clients. We're just giving them hard copy reports if they'd like to identify, quite frankly, what has changed, what's going on. From Japan Industrial Safety Health Law, the cutoff changed, another EU regulation, what has changed. So again, this goes on and on, quite frankly, and literally this one might be 50, 60 of them. So again, we do all this, we do this free of charge, and what you're seeing here are hard copies of what we're doing behind the scenes. An SDS, you get one that, let's say maybe you get one that's a new supplier, it's something you got to get in the database right away, you can't wait for our web crawler to go get it, send it to us. In black is, we call it an SDS request form. It's on the actual user interface of the software. So when a user is looking at our product, they can click on this SDS request button. Out pops this dialog box where you just attach the SDS as a PDF, whatever that file extension is that you have, and just fill out the mandatory asterisk boxes. Send it to us, 1 to 3 business day turnaround. If you need it right away, tell us. We've actually added them in the past in a matter of hours. Again, we're entering all the data into the client's database. They don't have to do any of this themselves, and this is all free of charge, part of the license subscription for the life of the subscription. There's really 3 types of data available when we do extraction from the vendor document. As I mentioned earlier, we actually call it internally vendor-generated data, about 70 data points, as I went through earlier. 3-stage QC process, and this is again validated by our expert teams of chemists and toxicologists. But we also have a second set of data. We call it user-generated data. This is actually SDS data extracted by the client. So the extraction functionality, we protect it by user permissions. What that means is you choose as the license holder who can do this. Obviously, you don't want everybody in the company doing this. And the entry fields include the following. So you can add your own data. Then also we have a third choice. I call it third part of our data spectra. And that is, we call it Chemwatch Gold data. This is over 300 active data points. This is data that our chemists and toxicologists have extracted. Then we use that to populate all 16 sections of the SDS. So when you go to Tox section 10, you don't get not available. We populate it. And we do that, all 16 sections, for 93 country formats, and we do that in 47 languages. This is just an example quickly of vendor and user-generated SDS data. And the premise behind this is that clients can use vendor-only data for in-country ingredient reporting, for instance, here in the States, syrup. And this is just an example of some of the data points we pull, most important, we'll say, to our customers. By the way, you can see we pull all ingredient data, and then we'll link that to our regulatory library. So with the gold data, quickly, is that the whole focus of this gold SDS, again, we're authoring actually, and then we're liable for the data, is worker safety, hazard communication. We don't sell chemicals or products. So we err, we'll call it, on the side of worker safety. And what this active SDS, and that's what it is, it's actually an active SDS with 200 to 300 data points. So what you can do is flip from within 93 country formats. Once you, let's say, have a US format benzene document up, you can pick 92 other countries with a click of a mouse, and within 15 seconds you have that country's SDS, and then you can do that in 47 languages. And then once you have this active data set, you can create all sorts of one-page reports, as we talked about earlier, safety cards, like we call our mini SDS, spills and disposal, first aid. And I'd like to turn it over now to our solutions engineer, Dusty Brinley, to have her take you through a brief demo and just show you how our product works and what we do with all that active data.
Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you our core product that revolves around SDS management. Additionally, I'm going to show you how to track and store documents within your own database. Before I get started, I just want to introduce you to some of the elements of our interface. So over here on the left-hand side, you'll see you have a module ribbon. This contains various modules and various products that we offer. Today, we're going to focus primarily on our home module, and then we will touch on our ChemWatcher tool. You'll see that we have a simple search panel that will allow you to locate SDSs either within our full collection or your own folders. We have a document selection tool, and then we also have a user-defined folder tree. You can define this folder tree however you see fit, and it will be based on your organization. Within our system, you can do a simple search, so you can search for a particular product of interest, again within our full database or within your own folders. Our full database contains over 23 million vendor, supplier, and manufacturer SDS. Your own folders will be those that you have either stored in that folder structure or requested that we add to your database. You'll notice that as I type in the material name that a word will pop up. This is going to render results based on relevance. You'll see that it will give you additional information on name, vendor, CAS number, and then also hazard codes. Additionally, you can type in the vendor that you would like to search for within the full database. Additionally, we have advanced search tools that allow you to not only search by name and CAS number, but also other criteria. So for instance, you might want to see all of those items within your own folders of a particular DG class. You might want to see all of those that are of a particular packing group, or you might want to search an item by user part number or vendor part number. We have all of these tools available to you for searching purposes. In this particular case, I'm just going to do a simple vendor search for acetone. Again, I've selected the vendor button on the document selection tool in order to specify that I would like to view vendor SDSs. It is going to render SDSs that are relevant to my product search. You'll see that I can see information that relates to the name of the product, the vendor, supplier, manufacturer of that product, the type of SDS. So we have SDSs, which are the newer types of documents in our system. Additionally, we have older documents called MSDSs within our system. You can also see the language and country of origin. You can actually have your system defaulted to any language or country. Additionally, you can also see the source of the document. So we have primary source documents within our system that have been obtained directly from the vendor, manufacturer, or supplier of that product. Additionally, we have secondary documents which have been typically added by our customer base. If you do not find the SDS that you're looking for within our master database, you simply just have to request for us to add that into the database. As Tom briefly mentioned during the PowerPoint, it usually takes 24 to 48 hours to have that SDS uploaded into the system as long as you have provided a PDF copy of that SDS. So you can view these documents directly from this full search menu, and you can view documents and print them directly from the full search, or you can move that document into your folder structure. And you can simply do that by either copying and pasting or dragging and dropping that into a particular folder, or again, you can copy and paste that into a folder. Once within your folder, you'll notice that you'll be able to see information that pertains to your documents. Some of this information includes tracking it to a subfolder. You can also see the part number that was assigned by the vendor, manufacturer, supplier of that product. You can see additional information about the product itself, CAS number, vendor information. You can even put volume or weight information, view hazard statements, add system tags, which essentially allows you to tag against a particular regulatory list, DG information, and then also packing group information as well. I would like to point out something that was mentioned during the PowerPoint portion of the presentation. You'll see that we have various icons attached to items either within the full search or within your system folders. You'll see that some of these might say VGD, AU, or UGD. The VGD just refers to the vendor extracted data, so that is the 67 data points that can be extracted by Chemwatch that are associated with that vendor, manufacturer, supplier SDS. We also have something that is called user-generated data, and user-generated data is something that you would actually extract from the document yourself. So this is an example of an icon that would be representative of that user-generated data. Again, we have two different data extraction options with regard to vendor SDSs. That is vendor-generated data and then also user-generated data. So your organization has the option to choose between the two. Additionally, we have something called our gold data that is represented by the AU symbol, and this can be found within your folder structure and then also within the full search. This essentially just means that a gold document sits alongside that vendor document, and you're able to pull data from that particular resource. Now, our gold documents are independently researched and written by our in-house technical staff that's comprised of chemists, toxicologists, industrial hygienists, and other hazardous material managers. Once a gold document is created for a substance or a material, then it can sit alongside that vendor document, and then you can also pull over 200 different data points with regard to reports, emergency response documents, and then also risk assessments. Now, if you request that we add that to our database, there are a couple of different tools that you can use in order to track the documents that you have requested to be added to your database. We also have a tool that's called ChemWatcher, and this is a project tracking number tool. So essentially every item that you request to be added into your database will be given a project tracking number, and this will allow you to follow those requests from receipt to the time that they're put within your system folders. Additionally, this will also allow you to track the status of acquisitions, any gold document requests that you have, any vendor extraction requests or status. Additionally, it will allow you to combine all project summary reports so that you can get statuses on all of those types of requests. Now, typically within our process, it will go through registration. So again, we'll register the document into our full database. Again, if you have subscribed to the service of vendor data extraction, we will extract the information off of that document. If you do not supply the vendor SDS, it will go through an acquisition phase where we will request the SDS from the vendor. Typically, that takes about a fortnight, so 14 days. And additionally, these SDSs will go through reviews and then also revisions as well to make sure the information contained within the document is properly extracted and properly documented within our database. You'll see here within the project tracking tool that it will outline the number of requests that you have, and it will separate these by the type of request. So it will outline the vendor SDS requests that you have, the Chemwatch SDS requests that you have, how many of those documents have had vendor data extraction, and then how many of those are unavailable through our acquisition processes. It's important to note that we are going to continuously try to acquire that document for you, and this is going to outline those documents that are unavailable during that acquisition process. You can view this either in numbers form or you can view this as a percentage as well. And you can also view individual information associated with each of the line items that I just named off. In this case, I'm going to view adjusted information for the vendor documents that are available and the PTN requests associated with that particular line item. Here you'll see a report of the materials in which you have requested for your vendor SDS. You're going to see it's going to outline the Chemwatch number, the material name, the vendor, whether a gold exists for that substance already. So this is important information, especially if you would like to have that gold data sit alongside your vendor documents. You can either see if the data already exists or whether you would like to make a request for it. Additionally, you'll be able to see whether that vendor SDS was currently available in our database and ready for use, or whether we had to acquire that from the vendor or manufacturer. All of these reports are downloadable, and you can also email these internally within your organization. Additionally, we have a tool here that will allow you to view the PTN history. So again, the project tracking number history, you can look a project tracking number up. Additionally, you can go in here and view the individual requests that have been made and also the individual stage in which that is in. That will conclude the demo portion of this webinar, and I will go ahead and pass it off to our other presenters.
Well, thank you so much, Gusty, and we appreciate everyone joining us. We're kind of getting toward the end of our presentation. Do ask questions. There have been several really good questions have been asked, and we appreciate that. But basically, chemical data management, it's our core business. We manage about 30 million vendor SDSs. We have a collection of other SDSs, gold SDSs. We have a regulatory database with about 6,100 databases in there, or lists. Expertise, we have about 170 on our staff of global experts. We understand chemicals. We see chemical data management as more than just managing PDFs. We actually understand there's chemicals behind them, and chemicals have cautions and consequences. And our platform is Amazon Web Services, fully managed, hosted, scalable. So we have a very good, solid application. So we kind of have the data to drive the application and the people behind it. I'd like to segue just for a second and talk about our mobile app. And we don't really talk about our mobile app as much as I think we should. So we had a few extra minutes in this presentation. So all of the data that you saw us working with, for the past 35 minutes is all available to our mobile application. So on the screen before you, I've already logged in. I'm just kind of showing some screenshots. But on the left side, I'm showing chemical store. I simply take my finger, touch chemical store, and it opens up that folder. So much as you saw Gusty show our folders on the left-hand side of the screen, it's the same folder structure. It's unique to your company. It's totally password protected. Same thing your employees are familiar with, your administrators. We can prohibit what a user can see on their smartphones. They may only see chemical store and they go right into the system there. But from here, I simply clicked on bisethium chloride. And when I clicked on that, I was presented with the SDS, or in this case, I think we have a safety card up. But it could be the SDS, vendor SDS, our gold SDS. And then just by taking my 2 fingers on my smartphone, I'm able to zoom into that. So basically, I'm running my entire application on my smartphone. So kind of taking that one step farther, I can open up what we call a safety card on my smartphone. So the same exact product, same exact chemical, I'm just getting a different document type. Once again, I'm zooming with 2 fingers. I could also run a risk assessment, so I can be out in the field, I can look at a chemical, and I can basically pull up in my smartphone, talk about what a user is doing with this, the activity, how much content they have, dustiness, frequency of use, and then basically create a quick risk assessment right there as I'm standing there. Then that's a unique feature only Chemwatch has. Similarly, we can do a fuzzy logic search. So if I just want to type in the name of a chemical and have it search all of my folders. So in this example, I typed dichloro, and basically it's popped up and says here, these are the 3 chemicals you have that match that. So as I start typing, kind of like Google, it suggests things that it thinks are a match for you. So when I clicked on that chemical, basically it's presented me with the firefighting information. So there's a lot of documents that we have that are peripheral that are also included. So in this case, it was a gold document. We did have the firefighting information on that. And then I can use my 2 fingers, I can zoom in on that and look around. And if I wanted to forward that document to anybody, I can simply click the share button. And just like anything else you do on your smartphone, you can simply share that via Gmail, email, you could send it a text message, however you want to send it. So it's pretty quick. And then what I did is I just simply said email, then I opened up my email in the very right-hand window, just showing here, this is what I would get if I received that email from somebody. So you can be out in the field. There could be a reason you need to send an SDS to somebody. Maybe they're on a job site and you're working for a contractor and they say, I need to see that. They could have it literally in, however long it takes to do that on your smartphone. So you could be one place, they could be another, and you could send them that document via email or text message. So really easy to use. I like it when people say, well, my worker's in the field, they don't have access to a laptop or your system. I'm like, they got a smartphone, Android or iPhone. All the tablets are supported as long as it's running iOS or Android. And then one other thing that we have that's really people really like and we don't talk about enough is our offline archive tool. And we thought about actually doing a presentation, maybe talking about this. What happens when my employees don't have internet connectivity? Everything up until this point, we kind of have a web app and we like it. It works really well. But what happens if I'm in a situation where there is no internet connectivity? Maybe I'm drilling for oil somewhere very remote, or maybe my employees are in a building for whatever reason. You do have the ability to do an offline archive, and our offline archive tool is really nice. It basically, in about 6 or 7 mouse clicks, you can select the folder, what documents you want, click the button, and it will generate basically 4 files. And it zips those up, and then you can take those, put them on your machine, and then unzip them. And it uses your web browser. So in the top of my screen, you can see the typical Google Chrome kind of thing. So I simply clicked on the index.html file. It opened this up. And then in the top, I have document name, vendor, part number, things I can search in. I put a little red mark next to those. So I can see all of my SDSs down the left side. I can scroll with those, or I can start to type in a document name. And when I type in a document name, for this example, I type BERYL, and it basically sorted on that. And then from here, I can simply click on that particular one that I want, and it will open up. And I have many selected as my type here, but I could have had vendor SDS. And it works really well. People like it. It's very simple. There's no software to install. It's literally just, a database of the images of the SDSs. So you get all the PDFs, in that download. Then you get all of the code behind it to make Google Chrome or Internet Explorer work, HTML, very standard way of doing it. The nice thing that I think is really cool is it also can work on your smartphone. So I took these same files, moved over to my smartphone, opened it up in Google Chrome on my Android browser, and simply have the exact same thing. So on my smartphone, I can have an offline archive that I can use to look at my SDSs. And as this example, I simply clicked on that one and then opened it up on the phone, and I can actually see the SDS. In this example, I have one of our mini SDSs, but it could be a vendor SDS from that same screen. So kind of, in closing and coming around the clubhouse turn on this webinar, at Chemwatch, we kind of see, SDS compliance, as a life cycle. We have a regulatory database, Galleria. We have a very large substance library. We have SDSs, and all that stuff centers around the SDS of how we actually work with the data. So the SDS is the core piece. So, and a quick summary on Chemwatch. We've been doing this for about 25 years, actually over 25 years. We're headquartered in Australia. We have 3 offices in the US. Our ecosystem covers 6 of the top 20 Fortune 500 companies. We have about 5,000 global clients. Anybody that uses chemicals could be a potential customer for us: oil and gas, automotive, electronics, mining, anybody. We are the world's largest manufacturer of chemical management software, and we have a global footprint that's perfect for both big companies and small. So if you're a small company, internet software as a service is nice because you can access that wonderful information on a web browser without having to buy an expensive package. And if you're a very large multinational firm, it's nice because all of your employees worldwide can access the internet, can access the data. So kind of recapping some of the things I talked about earlier, we have about 30 million vendor SDSs on our database, fully searchable. About 350,000 Chemwatch reauthored gold SDSs with about 450 data points in each. And as Tom mentioned, all 16 sections are populated, and we can convert between 90 country formats and 47 languages. Our user interface can change to 47 languages, so if you have a worker that's in German, they would see a German language on the Chemwatch user interface. We have the real-time links to about 6,000 regulatory database, which lead me to my next bullet of our chemical regulatory library. We keep this current for about 90 countries, so if you're wondering if I can ship a product to this country, or I have employees in this country, they have this chemical, is this chemical in compliance in that country, we can tell you that with a few mouse clicks. Have over 1 million substances organized into about 8,000 chemical families. And for people that are interested in authoring, probably very few people in this webinar, but we do have a JHS classification database, what we use for our authoring. We have about 170 employees. I think I had this on an earlier slide: chemists, toxicologists, regulatory experts. As a company, we still author about 5,000 SDSs a month, so authoring SDS is still a very large part of our business. And it's kind of nice because if you have a question about SDS or transportation, one of our experts can help you with that. And chemical management, everything we have is plug and play. If you say, I just need to create labels and manage SDSs, or I need to do chemical risk assessment and I need approvals process, things like that, all these things are modular, and we can bring those pieces, into your system. We have several packages or bundles that have the most popular packages kind of pre-bundled. But at the end of the day, you just tell us what you need to do, and we can make Chemwatch do it 99% of the time. Everything is .NET, so if you have a third-party application that you want programmers to go in and access our data or send us data, our API is very robust. Everything is cloud-based, so your IT department will probably really like that because there's really not a lot of involvement. We do support single sign-on, so if you have single sign-on at your organization, people can seamlessly get right into Chemwatch. Because it is cloud-based, you saw me access the thing from my phone. Any web browser, be it Firefox, Safari, Google Chrome, Internet Explorer, what have you, can access the data. And like I mentioned, we have a very strong web service API to help you access that data from third-party applications. And I like this slide just because it shows all the different countries' flags that we work in and we support with our product. And with that, I guess we're done, Tom. We finished a few minutes early, but I kind of thought we would. So we may may wind up a few minutes early, but Tom, do you see any questions and answers that are interesting?
Yeah, so I'm going to address, there's 4 questions. So let me get started. Now, these questions have been posted on our questions log. If you want these to be answered privately, you need to let us know now. Otherwise, I'm going to answer them for everybody. So one question was, are there additional lines available? And I believe the person means product lines. And well, yes, and Paul talked a little bit about that already, but just envision, quite frankly, what we have here is a Microsoft.NET platform, an EHS platform, where the chemical management modules are what we call plug and play. Let me take over quickly, Paul, and I will show everyone. Let me know when you can see this.
Yeah, we can see you, Tom.
Great. This is a matrix of our products. Product name is on top, the top columns we'll call them. And then these modules are the actual chemical management functionality. Materials module is the SDS management. Manifest is the inventory management tool. Risk assessment, label manufacturing, our hazards communication documentation, our regulatory database, our authoring tool, the Smart Suite app is, or Smart Suite applications, as Paul just showed you, the approvals, our SISOP module, transport module, all sit on a same platform, and the green arrow indicates which of our products have that functionality. But again, this is true plug and play, because here, this what we call bespoke includes basically any product combination you would like can be included. You want to have an authoring module that just makes labels, you got it. If you want to just do risk assessment on its own with authoring, you got it. So you can sort of mix and match in terms of what you're trying to do from a chemical safety management point of view. I'll just leave that up while I answer the other. Actually, Paul, I'm going to send it back to you.
Okay, great.
And let me finish answering these questions though. So I just did answer the product lines, and obviously the question is yes. The key is that you can plug and play in terms of what product mix you'd like. What is the SDS database size of your largest client? I cannot give the name, but they have over 160,000 SDS that we're managing. Yep. So this is a very scalable solution. We have a number of clients that have 200 SDS, and maybe just one site where you have users. In this client's case, they have over 200 sites accessing those 160,000 plus documents. Can you integrate this system with a company's purchasing system? Yes, in a limited fashion with what we call our SISOP-based asset management module. SISOP standing for scan in, scan out technology. So we can certainly show anyone who's interested in seeing this, and we can certainly show this as a demo upon request. The other question is, you provide this free service for the lifetime of a subscription for the database. Is the database allowed to grow, or do you charge extra money as you grow the database? And the answer to that is, quite frankly, we give you a free of charge allowance to grow the database based on the current subscription cost and size of database. So what does that mean? As an example, a client might have a 5,000 SDS database, and there's a price, there's a certain dollar price for that. We give all clients a 10% allowance. In this case, the client can add 500 SDS every year to that database, and the subscription price does not increase. So we are very generous free of charge allowance. If they go over the 10%, we charge approximately $10 for every document, one-time charge, to add that SDS to the database. The subscription cost doesn't change. It's a one-time charge to add that SDS or SDSs that are over the 10% allowance.
Yeah, and I think we're very fair on how we do that. If people have commented that, we're as a company, they're like, oh, that's fair. One thing I also want to point out is we can also integrate purchasing with approvals. And because we have an API, if you have an approval system or you don't have a chemical approval system and would like one, you can use ours. You can front end the purchasing process to make sure that the person that's receiving that chemical maybe has had the training on it, or as a company you want to allow that chemical in, and that's been really popular. And then one last question is, would it be possible to give the offline archive to an employee via email or USB drive? And the answer to that is yes, you could easily do that. Keep in mind that data is static. Once you send the email or write it to a USB drive, that is point in time data. It's no longer being kept current. And part of the thrust of our webinar was showing you how we keep things current. But in some cases, you can just give somebody, a USB drive, and if the information's a month old and every month they get a new one, or you send them an email, that may be satisfactory. So, and then lastly, I wanted to point out that our entire application was developed by one team of programmers. So we didn't buy or acquire any other companies. We don't have anybody else's technology other than Oracle, that's our database, that we use for our products. So we have total control of our product, and everything is seamless. You never copy paste between modules. You don't have something on this screen, you need to bring it to that screen. Everything was well thought out, and that it's totally integrated, allowing you to kind of move information or see information in one place that you worked with in another place. So, so Tom, do you have anything else? I think we're about done.
I'm all set here. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Yeah.
Actually, excuse me, Paul. I think I just got a late question. Yes, we got one more question. Sorry. Is that SDS available to everyone, or can you keep that SDS just in our library? The answer is yes to both. So in other words, I'm just going to make up an example. You have a product called WD-42 that's commercially available. We'll capture it, and you want that in your database, we'll capture it, but we make that available to everybody. If you have an SDS that you have added some data to, no, that's yours. We keep it set. Any of the data points that are common to other SDS, yes, that data is shared. But that SDS with your own data is specific to your database, and it's firewalled from everybody else. Since we're talking about databases, we use the Amazon Web Service to host the data. So the client's databases are connected to our master database via DLLs, direct link library. So that everyone's firewalled from each other. But there's real-time links to the master. So as the master's updated, all pertinent data in all of our 5,000 plus client databases gets updated in real time.
Great. Oh, and I wanted to plug our next webinar too. So March 15th, integrating risk assessment into a chemical approvals workflow. So a lot of people are, they see how we can do this, and there's some very innovative things we can do. You should be sure to tune into this one next month. Our chemical risk assessment module is the best in the business. Our approvals module is really good. It's flexible, it's user configurable. It can have multiple workflows depending on the toxicity of the chemical or the hazard. You can run a risk assessment, and based on the controls you introduce, will change the hazard rating of the chemical, and that can be fed into the risk assessment. It's a really powerful tool, so be sure to join us for that. With that being said, oh, Tom, go ahead.
Hey, Paul. Sorry, Paul, to interrupt. I got a late question that just arrived.
Keep them coming.
Is there any way to keep an SDS we want loaded from other views from an R&D perspective? Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, that's a great question. Our user settings for what users can do roles very strong. It's very granular. You can control what people do, what groups they are. For very large companies, they're always impressed at our ability to granularly control who can see what and who can do what. So,
and that's a good point, Paul. And just to add to that, without a lot of detail, we have some very large defense contractors as customers who have to, quite frankly, their data can't be seen certainly by competitors or any other prying eyes, but more importantly, the data within certain site folders cannot be seen by fellow contractors. All that can be restricted through the user permissions.
Yeah, it's really strong. So, okay, Tom. Well, I guess we're going to thank everybody for attending today, and be sure to catch us next month. And if there's anything you need from Chemwatch, be sure just to let Tom or I know, and we're happy to help you.
Yep, thank you again. And we'll be sending you the recording as well.
Oh, yep, definitely. Thanks.